Hi, I'm Neil Sackmary.
Hi, I'm State Trooper Sean Hagstrom with the Nevada State Police Highway Patrol Division, PEIO. Please stay tuned for the next episode of Trooper Talk.
And together, we can make a difference. Here we are live at this edition of Trooper Talk, live at the 360 Vegas studios. We have some special guests today. Trooper Hagstrom is here, Sandy's here, and Trooper Slater is here.
Sir.
On February 10th, I sent you a text, and I said that Carrie Fagel wanted to come onto the show because she had lost her brother and sister from the DUI. And she religiously watches Trooper Talk and said she would love the opportunity to come onto the show and talk about what she's experiencing. Now, we don't normally allow guests to come on, but we thought, this is going to be really great, and, we want people to know, just like you always talk about, like you talk about when you teach your class, right, that there is a personalized thing that happens when someone loses the life tragically, okay? So, the other night at, 7 o'clock or some derivative of this, Trooper Hagstrom, when he calls, I always answer. When I call, he always answers. And so he called me at 7 o'clock at night, and I thought, I don't know what happened, but it must be very important. And he called and said that he wanted me to know that Carrie went into the hospital and passed away before she was supposed to come onto the show. And so yesterday, a gentleman came into the store and said, I just want to tell you that I'm her husband. And so I said, well, listen, I extend to you if you would ever like the opportunity to come into the show. And he said, well, I don't really know a lot about what transpired with her and her family, only from what she shared. And I go, but you know her, right? And so you know what she's gone through when it comes to, the losing of a family member tragically because of a DUI. So, the reason I wanted my phone is because I wanted to remember the dates and stuff like this. So, Sandy, we're glad that you're here. Mm-hmm. We appreciate the handcuffs. And so we're going to start off with Trooper Slater. You teach a class. We had to film a little bit later today because you were teaching a class. You take the knowledge that you have, and you're not interested in just keeping it to yourself. Because you're out there every day and you see these people that should not be traveling on the road because they are under the influence of, I don't care what. I used to say, don't drink and drive. I don't care. If you're doing an illegal drug, don't do illegal drugs, but don't be on the road. You know what I mean? Right. Like if you're doing, I don't care. Be straight, because people are crazy on the roads. That is enough. I drive home down these roads with the cones and things like this. I'm like this, and I'm totally straight.
Right.
So, thank you very much for being here.
Oh, of course.
Talk to us about this class, and then sort of fill us in on this, and then I want to bring Sandy into this from the personalized perspective.
Yeah, for sure. So I teach a lot of classes. It's just one of the tasks that I have. But the class that I was on, for the reason why we were late, was for this year's block training for our annual training for Highway Patrol. We do a class, or I built a class this year for the investigative side of the DUI training. So basically, instead of talking about the semantics of the field sobriety tests themselves, talking more so about drug impairment and why, and the what you need to establish that they're under the influence of drugs rather than alcohol, because not everybody, but a lot of people can establish, okay, this person's drunk and here's why. But when it comes to drugs, they get a little bit fumbled of like, okay, well, what do I have to talk about to establish drug impairment? Especially when you are talking about like pills or something that doesn't have an odor, establishing, okay, well, they're under the influence because of X, Y, and Z. And so that's what the class was today. And then just a couple weeks ago, I was in academy doing standardized field sobriety test training, advanced roadside impaired driving training, and then that's it. So
And Sandy, I mean, we need them out there teaching these I mean, like, you know what I mean? Like, the amount of people that are out there that they're not able to catch. It's not that they're not out there trying as hard as they can, but like they may be pulled over on the side of the road and one of these people blows past them. I mean, there's only so much can be done, and the organization that you do, is so important. I mean, here is a lady that can't come on the show because of natural causes. Let me say that to you, okay? But like, she lost her family member to someone who was driving under the influence, and it's devastating.
Oh, absolutely devastating. And I was just heartbroken when I learned of what happened to Carrie, because I was really looking forward to meeting her. And too, I want to say how much we appreciate all the work that all of these officers do for us, and the wonderful training that Trooper Slater provides to the troopers. He helps them enhance their skill levels so that we don't have any mistakes when they make those arrests, we're so appreciative of that. Thank you, Trooper.
of course.
And I mean, it happens every day, sadly. And this past week, I have been working very closely with actually 2 victim families. And for the first time, we're prepping to do our Heroes in Handcuffs ceremony, April the 6th. And so for the very first time, we made arrangements with the Boulevard Trophy to allow some of these victims to actually watch their loved ones' handcuffs being engraved. And one of the things that, it was quite something. And 2 of the ladies that were there, both of their husbands had been killed. A third lady and her granddaughter, that was the husband and grandfather that was killed. And they got to actually watch those handcuffs being engraved with their loved ones' names. And we're doing a video of that. We're going to show that at the ceremony. But one of the things that I wanted to share with Carrie, if I would have had the opportunity, was to tell her about our program, let her know that we would, be honored to include a memorial sign for her brother and sister. That we do that every November. I know you're aware of that. And our troopers are out there, and Metro's out there helping us post hundreds of these memorial signs. And to tell her about the Heroes in Handcuffs. I'm sure she would have, appreciated the opportunity to present some handcuffs to some officers at that particular ceremony. So,
Do me a favor, just so people are aware, because
that's what I was going to mention.
Right,
yeah.
I want people to understand, because when we've come to the ceremony, right, and you've presented, we have the handcuffs here that you gave us, right?
Right.
But explain to us, so you engraved them with somebody's name.
Those handcuffs that you have, Neil, are engraved with Stop DUI. Okay. The handcuffs that the victims are going to be presenting to police officers, those are also engraved with Stop DUI, but on the other side, it also has the name engraved of a loved one who had been killed in a DUI crash. We have 7 police agencies, and we ask every year, who are the troopers, who are the officers that made the most DUI arrests the previous year, and those are the ones that we honor. And when the family member goes up, they give their very, very precious pair of handcuffs to that particular officer. Now, this gentleman right here, I know he has 2 pair.
Sure do.
1 pair bears my mom's name on them. And we often talk about, do these handcuffs really mean anything? I mean, do the officers or the troopers really, really get anything out of it? I know our
do, for
victims
sure.
do, because they're honored. They're honored to have their name on those handcuffs, and they want them out there on the street working. It's a new partner for the officer who wears those handcuffs or uses those handcuffs. And so I remember Trooper Slater, when I had the honor to give my mom's handcuffs to him. At the time, he had made, because we do this in April, so from January to April, I believe he had already made about 140 some, about 40 some DUI arrests already.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he said, I'm going to put your mom's handcuffs to work. Boy, did he ever, because he made 121 DUI arrests with my mom's handcuffs. So they do mean a lot. There's some kind of special power in those handcuffs.
In this handcuff.
And saving lives too.
And
Yeah,
Trooper,
absolutely.
Trooper Hackstrom,
Yes, sir.
we go to those ceremonies,
Mm-hmm.
right? Johnny and I, and like it's so powerful, and like all the way from the command. I mean, the command staff is always there, shaking everybody's hands. Hello, how are you? I mean, like it's amazing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the thing is that we've been able to witness what Sandy is saying and been able to capture this, and like. This is the directive from the command staff all the way down. And they allow troopers like Trooper Slater to go out there and take his knowledge and what he's doing, and then you, for what you do, right? Like you're able to take that public information and now put it out to everybody and say, listen, this is not the place when you break the law and you do any type of these activities. And again, I don't care what drug anymore. You're impaired. Like that's it.
Impairment's
Doesn't make a
impairment.
difference. Impairment is
Exactly.
impairment, right? And so I love what you just said, and that's what we need.
Absolutely. And last year really hit us home because we had two troopers that we loved very much die by a DUI driver that struck and killed him, and that was Sergeant Abate and Trooper Felix. So one of the things that you got to witness coming out and filming it, and it was powerful, that Sergeant Abate's wife had their child Vince, who was like 4 years old, and he was able to present the cuffs to Trooper Donaldson at the time. Now he's a sergeant. And Donaldson actually gave him his old cuffs to his son, but he has those cuffs in Abate's honor to go out there and get DUIs. And boy, has he done his job.
yes, he
He's
has.
amazing. But those kind of ceremonies, they have big meaning for all of our troopers out here. That means a lot. Because not only that, these names are never forgotten. They might not be with us here, but when somebody gets tragically taken away from a family or killed, that's a person that's not there for the holidays, for Christmas or Thanksgiving. And it doesn't only affect the family, but there's friends, cousins, and everybody that's related to that person. So it just doesn't affect one person or just that family. It affects a lot of people. And that's one of the things that's great about these cuffs that Sandy does through her Stop DUI organization, is these people are never forgotten. She'll answer the phone at any time of the night and helps DUI victims from these tragedies and gets them through it, and puts on these things like we talked about, going to the mountain and presenting the names. So people actually see these are people that are actually dying on our roadways for somebody that's very selfless and does a terrible act that there's no excuse to be driving impaired nowadays. So, and it really hurts me to even have to sit here and say that, because how many times did we get on the show and explain, you have every resource today. There's no excuse for driving impaired. We've talked about it numerous times. I mean,
there's no excuse.
absolutely.
When you pull someone over and you walk up to the car, Number one, we've talked about the fact that you don't really know what you're getting into.
Oh, for
right?
sure.
Like, it might say this is the person and he's never been bad in his entire life and everything like this. And you walk up there and he's had the worst day of his life. And I'm sure he's totally wasted, not in particular of any situation. Does that make sense? When you get up to the car and you do your investigation, after your investigation concludes and a person has been found to be under the influence of whatever, right? And again, I come back to the fact that I love that you talked about the drugs, because every time that I watch my TV show, when the person's wasted on alcohol. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, look, dude, you know what I mean? Like, we can smell this on your breath, right? After your conclusion of and you found that someone is under the influence, okay? And you put those bracelets on, it's some time, it's not 5 minutes, when you put that person in the back of the car till the time they get down to that jail. And then once they get into that jail, again, they have to go through booking. I watched that jail show the other day, right? And they
Neil
book
loves those shows.
They
So you know,
book
yeah.
somebody into the Clark County Jail, right? And the guy goes there and he goes, and the sergeant comes over and he says, "Listen," they in the back of the patrol, "Listen, I know you're very mad, you know what I mean? But here's what I'm going to tell you: I'm the sergeant. I'm introducing myself. Let's make this process nice and easy so that you can get through this, and then we can figure out what needs to be done. This, that, and the." Okay, into the chair he goes, and then, they come back 7 hours later and they go, are you ready to talk? No, the guy's in there for 17 or 18 hours before, like, the process even starts.
Yep.
And so, I know you've never been to jail, so I'm not saying what is jail like. See, Sandy, I used to ask them, what's jail like? And they always laugh and they go, well, I don't really know. You know what I'm saying? But it's not
Brought a ton
fun.
of people to jail. Though.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's not a fun thing for someone who is found to be impaired. Besides the fact that they could have killed someone or done damage to themselves or anyone else. Talk us through a little bit of that so that people understand that when they do this heinous acts, like we talk all the time about the parole and probation, it's mandatory 10 years and all this, like, there are consequences, and you are there to, provide the law to them.
Yeah, I mean, the first and obvious answer is the possible detriment that they can do to a person or a family, and it's because it never affects just one person if they do go and kill a family member. It's always that family member, that society, whoever. It always affects hundreds to thousands of people depending on who it is that they go and kill. So that's the first thing. The second is obvious. I mean, should be obvious to them, but the insurance hike to their insurance bill, even if if they don't hit anybody, they still get a hike in insurance because of them getting caught for driving under the influence. They also have their legal fees that they're going to have to go through, because even with a public defender, you still have the classes that you have to take. The court side of the house altogether is still an expensive process. Then you also have to potentially pay bail to get out of jail. So if you want to be out of the jail within a reasonable amount of time, then you're going to have to pay all of those. Not to mention potentially losing your job, depending on what kind of job you have. You could lose your job for driving under the influence. And then all of this stuff, though, for me, and the main reason why it's important is to eliminate the possibility of them killing somebody. Because if I can stop them before they kill somebody, then I've done what I'm supposed to do.
Killing, right, Sandy?
Yeah.
Death. Unfortunately, in the world we live in, we would all like to live forever. You know what I'm saying? And some of us, pass away from natural causes, and it's just sort of, it's the time. But to not be on the planet because of someone else's actions and again, we always talk about that. They always say it's not ever an accident; it's a crash, right? But sometimes, if it's not like intended, and you know what I mean, and something happens, it gives us like some solace in our mind. But to know that someone is not on the planet because someone decided to go out and do things that if they want to do, go. You know what I mean? If you want to die, jump off a bridge, right? And if you want to go and party like a rock star. But when you're done, don't get behind the wheel.
But actually, I can tell you, Neil, we refer to it as murder at random. That's basically what it is. It's murder with a 4,000-pound weapon, okay? One of the other things that DUI offenders are required to do is to attend our victim impact class. Last night I had approximately 30 offenders in there, and they are exposed to the real ramifications of what could happen if they kill somebody or if they injure someone. And you hope by the end of the class that what you've presented to them, because they're hearing from real victims, what they've seen and heard will resonate the next time. They have to make that decision. And they're going to make that decision. I mean, there's no two ways about that. But the question is, and we can talk about all this stuff, but what are we going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? And I'll tell you, one of the things that we're trying to do is, with our 2025 legislative session, we have Senator Jeff Stone is carrying a bill for us, and what we hope to do is to amend the current vehicular homicide law. We passed that about 20 years ago. At the time, it was fine. It's not fine anymore because nobody's listening. And we have the deaths and the injuries to prove that these people are not listening, okay? We have to get their attention. So the current law requires, in order for someone to be prosecuted under the vehicular homicide law, they had to have had 3 prior DUIs. 3 prior DUIs. Why are we giving these people 3 chances to kill us? So what we want to do is eliminate that 3 prior requirement. And hopefully we'll be able to do that. Now that carries a penalty of 25 to life. Maybe that'll get their attention. I mean, we can talk and talk and talk about all these things, but what are we going to do about it? What does it take? I mean, I am so sick of it, of just the lives being destroyed. Their lives are never the same again. Hundreds and hundreds of families that we've worked with, thousands over the years, and their lives are never the same, ever.
Let me ask something before I get to you, Professor. Without going into specifics, let's say you have a group of 30 people that come in there, right? What do you I know you want to get to 100% of the people that they'll understand. Does that make sense? But what do you think it really is? Probably like a third of the people. Like if you have 30 people, 20 will probably reoffend.
Actually, we had a study done a number of years ago, and it shows that we have a 92% success rate for those that go through our program, don't recidivate.
Because of the victim impact. So what I'm trying to say is that, so this is fantastic. So the victim impact panel, right? So what you're saying is that if someone, and I don't want to get into, because I don't know the law, right? So if someone gets convicted of the DUI and has to go to the victim impacts, right?
Correct.
You're saying that by you having the panel and people understanding how they're ruining someone's lives, that you have a tremendous success. I mean, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is that, like that it's not 100% of what we can do, but I will tell you this, if we have to start getting people here that are victims, you know what I mean? And so I'm very appreciative for what you're saying, and so go ahead.
Yeah, and they are given not only the
what does somebody do at the victim impact statement? Explain that to me. Like you have a room.
We have a room,
and then the people explain to us. So like people are on a thing, or what is?
Well,
it?
they're all seated in this room.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The
The
DUI
walls,
people.
yeah, the DUI offenders.
Uh-huh.
The walls in this room are filled with photographs of victims, every age, every race, every economic background. And you know, one of the things we tell them, no one is immune. That's the thing. You know, it doesn't matter who you are, who you think you are, your economics, your religion, your race, your age, including the unborn. It crosses all boundaries, Neil. All boundaries. Doesn't matter whether you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent. It does not matter.
And so you have the
So these photographs
Yeah, uh-huh.
line the walls.
Uh-huh.
They come in, they sit down,
and they're quiet.
and they're very quiet.
Uh-huh.
Now, every now and then, because we do have law enforcement on site. We
for
do
the jokesters.
well, the ones that show up drunk. We have people who are supposed to attend.
Okay, I'm listening.
They show up drunk,
Okay.
or they show up reeking of pot. Okay.
And you're like, that's it.
They're done. They're done. So we have 2 officers on site. The second Wednesday of the month, we have the Henderson Police Department. The 4th Wednesday of the month, we have Metro is there. Okay. So anyway, first thing I tell them is that I know you're not happy to be here, but you're extremely lucky to be here because you haven't killed anybody and you haven't injured anybody yet. These are all misdemeanor offenders. They haven't killed or injured. And what's the difference between the two? Between that misdemeanor and that felony? It's luck. That's all it is. And eventually the luck runs out. And then I start talking about various cases, these victims and their stories and what has happened to them. I go through an autopsy process. I have pictures of an autopsy of one of our victims. And most people have never participated or had seen an autopsy. I have.
Trooper Hyster, I mean, like, you know, we need Trooper Slater out there patrolling these roads. You know what I'm saying? Like, and we need him teaching so that we can, you know, get more of the troopers who know to be up to the same, or you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
so that we're always advancing, right? But you know, it's so important for the Trooper Talk, and you work so hard at always having different guests come in to explain to us the different things so that people that are watching can understand, and you can see in Sandy's face when she talks, like, you know what I mean? And when Trooper Slater's there, he's calm and collective, just don't mess with him. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, don't cross the line. Cross the line, and that's it.
Yeah, and you can see how it affects them both. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because they're dealing with it. And like she said, putting autopsy photos up, I wish some of these people could experience some of these DUI crashes that are fatals and have them go and see these. I mean, we couldn't show it in public because of how graphic, but that affects our troopers and everybody, because we have to be there. And then we have to notify the families, you know, or the coroner also. So this across the state, I mean, I always tell everybody, we have the hardest working troopers in the country. I would put up our troopers with any other troopers across the nation of how hard they work to try to get DUIs off our roadways here in the Las Vegas Valley. Across the state, we've done well over, I think it's around 3,000, 3,200 DUIs for the state last year. And 2/3 of that is here in Clark County. So, of course, we have an issue with impaired driving. You know, we live in Las Vegas, the entertainment capital of the world. So we have a lot of people doing what we talked about, not only drinking, but we got marijuana's legal now. Now we threw that hole in the picture, and we've seen a lot of things happen since we've had marijuana legalized, because you're supposed to be doing it at home. And when we drive our cars everywhere, what do we smell?
Yes,
You know what I mean? And you go everywhere.
These
you
guys are
smell it.
driving
It's
down
terrible.
the road with the billowing smoke. I can
Yeah.
only imagine. I never asked Trooper Slater, but I can only imagine, like, you know, like he pulls up to a car and it's like the Cheech and Chong mobile.
Oh, it's the
right?
real
And
deal.
and it's like, look, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah,
Actually,
and
I
then,
have a story.
Yeah, and then like 20 years ago, the biggest thing that we talked on your show before, is the poly drug use. And OxyContin and alcohol was a lot of our crashes, a lot of our fatals. About 20 years ago, we were dealing with that, and that was a big problem because it started becoming the party drug scene where people would go to parties and they'd have all these drugs in these bowls, and they would just use whatever, and then they thought, oh, I'm gonna get in a car and drive. Very smart, right?
Very.
Wrong. You know, that's one thing I wanted to bring up because you were starting to bring up about Trooper Talk. For the public, I love your show, and the reason I love it so much is we're here to educate the public, and that's what we're doing every time. Even though we're talking about different divisions within the Nevada State Police and what it is to be a trooper and the things we do on our I wouldn't say everything is like a routine. It's always a daily, you know, something. We've always talked about it. There's always something different in law enforcement, even if you've been on for 20 years, or you run into something different. But these different aspects, how it affects people and the different things that we do, especially with impaired driving. And that's one of the biggest things that I'm gonna start, we're gonna do this year, is we're really gonna buckle down on this impaired driving, and we're gonna get this message out. I wanna get across with people is buckle up when you drive. I was just talking to Sandy earlier. We've had so many fatals even towards the end of the year that were rollover crashes, which they would have survived. If they just would have buckled their seatbelt, they would have just left maybe with scratches or a moderate injury, no death, and they could have walked away from it. And they could be here sitting talking with us today, but they're not because they chose not to wear their seatbelt and got ejected from the vehicle. And now we have to make another death notification. And we don't like doing that. You know, we're here to protect our community, our society here in the Las Vegas area, as well as the great state of Nevada, who we work for. So by using this show to pivot and show people what not to do and educate them more, I think is great, because we have to get that message out. And I think that if we just got to keep hammering it home, not only with these shows, but when we go to different events and everything else, we have to talk to these people about how bad it is to get these impaired drivers and distracted drivers and people that are not really listening. And I always call it selfless acts, because they're thinking of themselves.
No,
there's always somebody else that they're
exactly what I'm
affecting,
saying,
and they're
right.
ruining other people in the valley. Somebody was selfless to get behind that wheel of the car when they had every opportunity not to get in that car, and they end up killing somebody. Or and what about the ones that get severely injured? They lose an arm or a leg or anything else just because somebody chose to drink and drive or use drugs. And it's that's why we need to get this message out, and that's why we love what you do, Neil, for Trooper Talk. And I just want to thank you all the time. You know, it's a great message. Trust me, we're trying to do one thing at a time.
Yes.
But you know what? As much as we can try to educate the public, that's what we're doing every day.
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
You were going to tell your story, and then we're going to get to some pictures.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah,
We're ready for
sure.
story time?
Absolutely.
Yes, story time. So I had a DUI. Well, actually, I have two stories now. A very quick one, and then the one.
No,
I was
use
gonna
them,
think
man.
of.
We love it. Yeah.
So you talked about serious injury, so I'll talk about that first. So I had a DUI, and I can talk about this one because it's done. DUI down on Las Vegas Boulevard in Sloan. So a commercial truck driver was driving under the influence, and he hit a motorcyclist who lost his leg because of the DUI. So he hit him, and he was driving under the influence of alcohol, and when I was talking to him, I was like, "Man, what are you doing?" And he was like, "Oh, I drank last night." And I was like, "You're driving a commercial truck, like you're driving a 70,000, 80,000 pound machine, and you cannot have any alcohol especially when you're driving a commercial vehicle." So that was the first one. And then the second one, I was working graveyard at the time, and I was on Charleston. I just left the jail from another DUI, and I see this car back up and then go into the turn lane, and I was like, okay, that's a little strange, but maybe he just remembered he wanted to turn left. So I was like, okay. So he makes the left turn onto the 15 from Charleston southbound, and he starts failing to maintain his lane, driving all over the road. And I was like, oh, well, this is probably a DUI. So I pull him over at 15 in Spring Mountain. Well, he pulls into the left shoulder, which is never the right answer. He pulls into the left shoulder after the curve. So now I'm at the curve in a really bad spot. Well, right when I opened my door, I hadn't even gotten out of the car. I opened my door and I smelled a strong odor of burnt marijuana coming from the vehicle, and I'm, 10 to 30 feet away from the car, and I could smell it from there. And I was like, wow, this is gonna be a problem. So I'm walking up to the car, and it's just getting stronger, and I was just like, okay. And then I'm like, hey man, Trooper Slater without a high patrol. The reason I stopped you is blah 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 blah, license, registration, insurance. And I'm like, where are you coming from? And he's like, and I was like, oh God. So he's drunk and high, but he was more high than drunk. So I start talking to him, and I was like, hey, any marijuana in the vehicle? And he's like, no. And I was like, I don't believe you, strangely enough. And so I was like, all right, man, we'll step out. So as he's stepping out of the car, he goes like this, and he moves, and I was like, okay, that was a strange action. What was that? And so he gets out of the car, and so I look, and I flashlight, and hit a bong, a big water bong, from the floorboard to his stomach, that he was moving. So he was actively smoking while driving. And I was like, how much marijuana have you smoked? And he's like, well, just from the hit. And I was like, come on, man. So the whole point of the story is to say, yes, I have had the active smoke, Cheech and Chong.
I don't even know what to say.
But you know what, Neil? That's lives. I'm not going to say life. That's lives saved. Not only him, himself.
Yeah, he had a
but
passenger, all the people
could
around.
have happened with him all over the road taking somebody else out?
We laugh, but it's
Yeah.
but it's a
Oh,
very,
it's
but
crazy.
it's a
Yeah,
very-
absolutely.
but we laugh
And-
for a moment, but it's a very serious thing.
Oh yeah, and the whole thing is I could talk story after story after story of all these people who just make awful decisions and then decide to drive our roadways, and the whole point of the troopers and the training and all of the stuff that I do is to get these impaired drivers off the road before they kill somebody, because if I can prevent a death, then that means that I saved a life.
Absolutely.
And impaired driving is the only thing that you can visually see the life saved than any other part of our job that we do. Yes, I can stop cars and write tickets for distracted driving and reckless driving and all of that stuff, and it potentially saved a life when I wrote those tickets. But I know for a fact that if I arrest somebody for driving under the influence, I saved a life, at least one, which is the impaired driver. But it's always the people around. It's the child that's in the backseat of the car, or the passenger that's completely sober, which doesn't make any sense to me.
And you said they had passengers too, right?
Oh yeah.
Were they high also?
Oh, he was also high. Yeah.
Okay, because
In
sometimes
this case scenario, he was very high.
one
But
thing I want to bring up is, even though it's a person's car or something, I've when I've made DUI arrests in the past, the other people are sober, but
Yeah.
yet they let the person drinking driving,
yeah,
or they'll at least have one person. Why
Yeah.
isn't that person driving?
yeah. What's mind blowing?
It just blows my mind.
What's mind blowing to me
You
is
know, I don't get it, and they're like, "Well, it's his car." No, I don't care.
Yeah.
You take that car, or you don't let him drive.
right.
I
What's
just
mind
don't
blowing
get
to
it.
me
Yeah.
too is you'll get the person who is completely impaired, doesn't have a valid driver's license, and the passenger is completely sober and has a license. And I'm like, all right,
It doesn't have a
So-
driver's license.
yeah, doesn't have a license, cannot drive at all, doesn't have anything that they're supposed to have to drive a car, is impaired, and then the passenger is completely sober with a license. And I'm like, now, and you talk to those passengers, and I'm just like, hey, you know what? Why didn't you drive? Oh, well, he said he was fine. If you're sober, drive the car.
That's
If
see,
you're
that's a great
sober,
message.
drive the car.
If
Absolutely.
you're sober, drive the car.
Well, I'm going to touch on one thing too
Yeah.
before we get to the
Yeah.
pictures, and I could talk a little bit about it, but
Yeah, tell me.
it's still a fresh investigation. This just happened 2 days ago. We had a fatal.
Yeah.
It was up on Harmon, and it came out as a reckless prior when the car was all over the roadway. Ends up hitting another victim's car. Won't give the rear ends him, and then hits a construction vehicle, rolls over, and kills himself. But during that crash, the person that he struck from behind, that person didn't have any medical issues, but was later arrested at the crash scene for impairment, even though it wasn't his fault. And I know that Slater's probably ran into this numerous times. I remember when I worked graveyards myself, and this is dating back a ways, but we would have and we've talked about this before, I'd go to a DUI crash where both are DUI. Even though you're the victim and the other person was clearly in the wrong, you're both going to jail. And I remember one night that I did not one of those, but 2 of those crashes in the same night, where 2 DUI people get in crashes,
Oh, yeah.
and we take them both to jail, one after the other.
Yeah, just because
So
you're
this
a victim.
is just how bad it is. And if you think I'm gonna have a couple drinks and I can just make it home or something, you might make it home, but you might not, because that other DUI driver might hit you, and guess what's going to happen? Even though you had that 2 or 3 drinks.
Right.
If you're over the limit, guess what? You're getting cuffs and you're going to jail just like the rest everybody
you break
else.
the law, and this is
Absolutely.
what happens.
Exactly.
But I just wanted to mention that, Neil, on that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You ready? Because I want to go into that because I have something to tell you.
Okay.
All right. Did you see this, Sandy?
I'm looking at it.
What did you think? He got the ceremonial mug, Sandy.
So what happened is our major, we love him to death, Honey, and you know Major Honey. You know we spoke. He goes out of his way. He's going to graveyard. One of the graveyard, what do you want to call it? Shifts. One of the graveyard shifts, and he wants to visit the guys and let them know what a great job they're doing and everything. So this trooper Lindsay, remember back in December we had 186 DUIs for the month of December. He had 24 of those DUIs in the month of December, but from January to maybe a week ago or a week and a half ago, he's already made 45 DUI arrests. So Major Honey, out of his own money, and he wants to visit his troopers and say, hey, you're doing a great job. We really appreciate the work you do and everything. He ended up buying him a Yeti mug because he heard, you know, he's got 45 so far. We're not even 2 months in, 45 DUIs he's already got, and he thought, hey, I'm gonna get him a mug for his good work that he's doing. You know, we don't get incentives. We do this because it's our job, and we don't look for stuff like this. But our major went out of the way just to let these guys know, hey, you guys are doing a tremendous job. And since you are a high DUI guy so far, I wanted to get you something special for that. And that's what we love about our command, is, you know, they appreciate good work, and they want to show that to us.
That's why we call them heroes.
Yeah.
Sandy, we love Major Honey.
Oh my gosh,
And
yes.
and what people don't know is that this show is totally unscripted. Like Johnny and I don't, sit there and try to figure out questions and all this type of stuff. And I don't look at these pictures before, but Trooper Hagstrom sent me this picture over. And but the thing is this, this is what we need. We need the command staff telling our troopers how much we appreciate them. And when you're out there and you're working as hard as you can, just like Trooper Slater says, you're saving lives.
Mm-hmm.
You're taking someone who should not be on our roadways, and you are taking them off the roadway, hopefully before they hurt or kill someone.
Yep.
Right, Sandy?
Exactly right. And I think it's important to note that people should understand that whoever it is that's driving under the influence has such great potential in causing hundreds of deaths. I mean, in our victim impact class, we highlight a man, infamous, created the worst drunk driving crash in the history of the United States, drove drunk down the wrong side of a Kentucky freeway, crashed into a school bus. School bus exploded into flames. 24 children, 3 adults burned to death. 34 of the children severely burned and injured. This is one drinking driver victimized thousands. So anybody who's behind the wheel, who's under the influence, has that potential. They have that potential of causing death and injury to thousands. And I'm so glad that, Sean, that you had mentioned the injured victims. We pay a lot of attention to those who have been killed, and rightfully so, Neil, rightfully so. But we give equal attention to those who have been injured. We have victims who become quadriplegics, paraplegics, and you were talking about, somebody who has a severed limb. We had a family that we were dealing with. The 7-year-old boy lost his right arm. He's 7 years old. He lost his right arm. And his mom, 7 years old, the things even with all of his physical injuries, you've got a lot of emotional trauma going on in that child's head. And he asked his mom, he said, "Mom, am I ever going to see my arm again?" How do you answer that? Am I ever going to see my arm again? And he asked his aunt, "If you were my girlfriend, would you still marry me even though I have only one arm?" A 7-year-old. I mean, so when you look at the full picture, like I said, it's so disgusting. There's no excuse for it. None.
And
I
you
mean,
can't
they can
fix him mentally either.
No.
Because it's already.
Absolutely. One of the people that we pay tribute to, again, here, and all of our victims, they're going about their daily business, just their daily going to work, going to church, coming home from dinner, maybe going to typical things that we all do. And their lives are destroyed in a heartbeat because somebody chose to drive under the influence. Again, whether it be alcohol or drugs, marijuana, prescription drugs, big prescription drugs too. And here was Debbie on her way to work. Just on her way to work. Gets caught up on in traffic on the spaghetti bowl, rear-ended. Like that, her spine was severed at the C5 level. She became a quadriplegic. Beautiful young mom. Loved outdoor activities, swimming, boating, ski, everything. And the thing that happens when you have these catastrophically injured victims is that after a period of time, not only are there other medical problems developing, but after a period of time, no matter how good of an outlook you have, and Debbie happened to be the kind of person that always saw the glass half full, no matter how positive you are, after a period of time, you begin to feel that you've become not only a burden to society, but a burden to your family. And you wish you would have just died in the crash. These are the kinds of things that happen. I mean, the public sees a newscast and they see maybe a body covered with a blanket. Oh my gosh, it goes way, way further than that. And we talk about how many people are actually impacted. On average, on one DUI fatality, on average, a minimum and conservatively 200 people, very easily. That's like throwing that pebble in the pond and it ripples and ripples and ripples and ripples. It touches everybody. And everybody pays for it one way or the other.
Trooper Slater, it makes you proud
Oh yeah.
to see that people are out there, your fellow troopers, and they're doing.
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that Sandy's organization isn't there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, nothing would make Sandy more happier than to have an organization that she doesn't have to provide and do victim impact statements and panels and things like this to people that are not listening.
Yep.
They are not listening.
True.
They are continuing to do as much as we can sit here and scream and rant and rave, and you know what I mean? And so with the Trooper Talk, we want to save one life. If we can save one life, then we can save two. And so, if somebody's watching right now and they're drinking or doing whatever, and they're about to get into their car, and you can say something to them before they do it, what do you say?
Call an Uber. Call an Uber. Call a Lyft or a whatever. Call a friend, a family member. Don't drive like that. Get onto your Lamborghinis and go to. I'm not saying don't go do whatever you have to go do, but just find a safe option to get to wherever it is that you have to do, because so many times people will either choose to drive under the influence because it is a choice. You make the decision to get into your vehicle, to start your car, and to get onto the road. Like I quickly will say, I had a person one time, because a lot of people will say, I can't believe you did this to me. I can't believe you did this to me, when I arrested for driving under the influence. And so one time I finally was just like, okay, I'm gonna walk through this with you to see how it's my fault somehow that you chose to do this. I said, okay, did I give you the alcohol you had to drink? And he was like, of course not. I was like, okay. Did I hand you your keys and force you to drive your car? He was like, of course not. I was like, all right. Did I make you do the thing you did to get pulled over? He's like, well, no. And I was like, then how's it my fault? And he just shut down. And I was like, thank you. because you make the choice to drive under the influence, so you have to choose a sober option to drive.
Let me add one thing on that.
Yeah.
Your choices there's always consequences
Always.
to what you do. And you got to think of others and be mindful to others. I don't understand what's happening to our society. I wish I could change a lot of things and make it better, but in the way people drive, like, we talk about, the 215 at 65. We still getting people over 100 miles an hour. And we talk about that on almost every show, and I shouldn't have to. But like I said, these certain things we have to remind people. And even with the impaired driving, has it gone down? I mean, we just had a fatal 2 days ago. And that person, the coroner hasn't done their thing with the drug toxicology, but from what I heard, him being all over the road, I'm assuming with our job that person was probably under the influence. I mean, I can't say because it's still under investigation.
No, of course.
But these things are still happening, and it's just
they
it's
need to
ridiculous.
stop.
Absolutely.
Right.
The whole thing is to stop. And if you had a couple drinks and you think you're fine, and let's say you feel a little bit of different, don't get behind the wheel. That's all Trooper
exactly.
Slater's saying right there. He says, do not get behind the wheel.
The show I watched the other day, they pulled somebody over the .57, right?
And that person was alive?
That's what I was going to say.
No.
057.
Oh, 057. Sorry. Whatever was below the legal limit. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
okay.
Right. And so, sorry to mean
That's okay.
and so they said, listen, I'm just telling you right now, you are legal to drive. I don't care. Like, you're going to go park that car over there, and you're going to call someone because you are on that border, and,
Let me tell you something about us. And that might have been fine with that PD or something, but I might tell the public right now, and I've been able to get it on. And Trooper Slater can testify to this as far as certain people. Some people never drink, and then they drink and they're not used to alcohol or whatever, and maybe they didn't drink that much, right? I've been able to get people on .05 and under the legal limit just because of their prior actions all over the road or whatever. Alcohol affects everybody differently. Same with drugs. So if you get in a crash and I smell alcohol and I do field sobriety test and I still see that you're unable to, you're stumbling and you're unable to do some of the tests, you're going to jail at a .05 because somehow you weren't able to control your car and you got in a crash. You're probably under the influence of alcohol, whether you drink a lot or you just had a few drinks. Alcohol affects everybody differently.
Yeah.
Even though it's a state law of .08, that's a heading for nationwide.
Yeah.
But if you can't, and he can probably go on a little bit more on this because he is an expert on DUI. But I've been able to do that numerous times on crashes where they were a little bit below the legal limit, but they were not well enough to drive.
Sure.
And I could not legally tell them to get in a car and park it or drive away because then I'd be putting my job, somebody else's life on the line, and it was my duty to get them off the road before they killed somebody else or caused another crash.
And Utah recognizes the dangers of,
0.05.
I mean, Utah's .05, that's their per se.
Yeah.
.05.
So there, people always forget because that guy, the commercial that I talked about, the commercial guy driver, he was a .037.
But there's 0 for their license.
The 04 technically, but it should be 00. But
Yeah.
doesn't matter. That's the logistics side of things. But what people forget is that yes, .08 is the illegal per se. What per se means is that no matter what, if you are over a .08, you are per se or for sure DUI. That's what that means. But there's still impairment theory. Impairment theory says because of your driving characteristics, because of the field sobriety test, because of your physical outward signs of impairment, you are DUI. So you could still be under the legal limit and still DUI or still driving under the influence through
And
the
see,
impairment
alcohol affects people like this person could weigh 110 pounds. You understand? Very lightweight, you know what I mean? Or 90 pounds. And just having that one drink could mess that person up.
Yeah.
And especially if they never have had drinks or something and they're just like, I only have one drink or two. But you weigh 90 pounds or 100 pounds. It's going to affect your body different than a guy that weighs 245 pounds, probably drinks 3 times a week, and just had a couple beers and he's fine to drive. Wouldn't even probably be, what, 0.04 or 0.3. But because that person got in a crash and now they're stumbling all over, and just because they're 0.05, you're still going to jail for a DUI. And then it's up to the district attorney if they decide to prosecute the case or not. I did my job by getting you off the road before you killed somebody else or created another crash.
And we'd
So,
rather
yep.
and we'd rather you do that. I mean,
Yeah,
not in a disrespect, but I mean, if you're behind somebody and you're seeing signs of things, then you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's why I had to bring that up, Neil. Yep,
Yeah,
absolutely.
absolutely.
Yep.
All right, let's see this one now. Who's that, Sandy?
Oh my gosh, I didn't know I was going to have my shirt.
Who's that, Sandy?
So we got Sandy here with Stop DUI. This is our Major Honey and me. This was at one of our DUI task force that we had last year. And one of the reasons I wanted to put this up, this is some of the arrests from last year, and you can see some of these
we can see a
wonderful
name. We can
cuffs
see-
getting
right.
used. I had some of our troopers send me some photos saying, hey, first arrest, this is what I got, and they got the names on there
Yep.
of the victims, family going on some of these people getting arrested for DUI. I wanted to put this up because to let the public know here down the road that I've been in contact with other agencies, Metro and Henderson, and throughout this year we're going to be doing some more DUI task force where we're going to bring other agencies in as a group, and we're going to start targeting certain, well, I shouldn't say targeting, we're going to be active in certain areas, and we'll probably be able to tell it on the show what kind of range. We're not going to give the actual dates, but we're going to be doing this throughout the year to try to bring that impaired drivers down and to help educate the public with that. So
Trooper Slater, this looks like a lot of fun.
Oh, it is.
I mean, like, you know, in front of a patrol car, you know, being handcuffed on the side of the road, you know, sitting in the back of a patrol car for many hours, you know, because who knows
People
what
never
I mean, like,
complain about the handcuffs.
right, I mean, like this looks like, like this guy must be having a blast down there. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this is not fun.
No.
This is
it's life upending.
a
Absolutely.
sick. This does not look fun. This is not where somebody wants to be, right? Secondarily, you know, they are there by their own actions.
Yeah. And a lot of
And so you reiterated that. So yeah, I'm sorry.
a lot of people, you know, they'll tell me, oh, well, I don't want to go to jail. I'm like, well, nobody wants to go to jail, but it's your actions. So I always tell people is I'm just the end result of poor decision making. So you chose to drive under the influence. You chose to do whatever thing you did to get pulled over, and then I'm just the end result of that. I don't make the decision lightly to place people under arrest. If I only place you under arrest if you're driving under the influence of alcohol or drugs or whatever. So you guys kind of touched on like prescription medication. It's actually a big problem lately, where people are. We'll just use Xanax as the example. So people are driving under the influence of Xanax, and Xanax in and of itself is a good drug for anxiety and all of that, but the problem is the misuse of it. So they're prescribed, you know, a half of a Xanax, and then they take 2 or 3, or they take a whole one and then they mix it with 1 glass of wine. Well, yeah, the 1 glass of wine in and of itself is not a problem, but if you mix them together, it's an additive effect. So both of those are depressants. So if you add one depressant plus another depressant, it equals a super depressant, for lack of better words. And so now you have somebody who would have been fine if they took singular doses of either of those things, but you add those together and now they're impaired.
Yeah, and Sandy, I mean, like, you know, when it comes to the organization that you do is so fantastic.
Thank you, Neil.
And so you go out there, you know, and you ensure that there's always a smile on the trooper's face.
We try to.
You know, and you want them to know that, you know, there's somebody there with them. And when these type of things happen, because at the end of the day, they don't want to be in a position to arrest people. Like, it's not why they went to the academy. They didn't go to the academy because they said, okay, I want to go out and arrest people because I have nothing better to do in my life. You know, they're there, Sandy, because these people are out there polluting the roadways with different types of drugs or alcohol or put together, and they are causing people horrific things because they are out there killing people.
Exactly. And you know, our troopers, I just have to agree with you. They are the best of the best, and they are out there every day doing work that most people they see things that most people would never see in their lives. They make so many sacrifices on our behalf, on citizens' behalf, just to keep us safe. I mean, truly, hero, you know, we say hero, but sometimes hero is not even big enough. It's not even a big enough word to really describe how amazing the men and women of our highway patrol, of our Nevada State Police Department truly is. I still go back to NHP.
No,
I'm
we're
still,
still NHP.
Sandy, I got a great idea.
We're still NHP. We're just the division of Nevada State
Oh,
Police.
okay.
So we're good. You're good.
Since you're here,
Yeah.
why don't you do me a favor?
Yes.
You can, Trooper Hagstrom will help you with this, but
Okay.
you can look in this camera right here. See
Here.
this
Okay.
one right here?
Oh,
right?
here, okay.
Perfect. There you go. If someone wants to join the Nevada State Police, go to nevadastatepolice.com, and they can do all these great things. Tell everybody, Sandy, right here.
Yes, if someone wants to join the awesome Nevada State Police Department, all they have to do is contact
Nevada State Police.
Nevada State Police.
.com.
.com.
Yep,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Go to our website. You know, we're always hiring. We have Nevada Highway Patrol and Parole and Probation are our two main divisions, but we have so many other divisions that you can go to: investigation, state fire marshal, governor's dignitary protection. But even if you go into like NHP, we have different divisions. So, you know, we got canine, motors, commercial enforcement. So there's a lot of different aspects. And let's say that you live here, but you want to move to Reno in a few years or something. If there's an opening, we can always transfer you. You can go all over the state. And you also get your own office to take home every day, and that's your vehicle. So so what you do is you hit on work from your driveway, go out there, and then when you're done with your work, you're hitting off at your driveway. So it's saving you time from your personal vehicle going to work and pulling stuff in and out and doing meetings you're probably saving yourself 2 or 3 hours, and it's not your gas and maintenance. So there's so many pluses, and that's why I always tell people, check out nevadastatepolice.com. And then also, if you always wanted to be involved in law enforcement but just didn't really want to be a law enforcement officer, we are hiring dispatchers. We're hiring administrative assistants, both in parole and probation and Nevada Highway Patrol. So I always say, hey, if this is a calling, because it is truly a calling, it takes a specific person that really wants to do this job. And I don't want to forget our laterals too. You know, if you're an officer in other states or whatever, want to do laterals, or military, if you're thinking about getting out of the military soon, they have a bridge program where you can start working for us 6 months prior for you getting out of the military, so we can get you on board and start working with that. So there's a lot of options out there. So go to nevadastatepolice.com. We'd love to have you check it out. You can do ride-alongs. We can have you sit with dispatch. We got all kinds of things that we can work with you and get going.
And critical fills.
And critical fills.
Absolutely. This is how many lives were lost in Nevada last year, 2024. And I'm glad they always put this up, because I speak about it on your show all the time. The top 2 contributing factors is impairment and speed. You know, if we can control our speed and get these impaired drivers off the road, hopefully we don't want to see these numbers at all. And if it was a perfect world, like we were talking about how we don't want to make arrests, If it was a perfect world, it'd be great that nobody would do these things and we would have people around all the time that we didn't have to worry about. But unfortunately, people want to do their own things and not make the right decisions, right? So another big thing that was really shocking to me, and we started this over a year ago,
Yeah.
I started talking about the pedestrian deaths. This is just people getting struck on our highways and roadways. And another thing that I want to bring up is the unrestrained motorists and how we're talking about this year. I'm going to really talk about buckling up and seatbelts. A lot. I bet you over a third of these would be alive today. I don't know the exact stat, but I'm throwing it out there. At least 1/3 probably would be here if they just wore their seatbelt. And in a lot of these rollovers, like single vehicle cars, they end up getting ejected from the vehicle. That's how they end up passing away, unfortunately. But you see these vehicles nowadays with all the testing, even when they roll, the A-frames, which is in the center of your car that protects your roof and everything, these cars are still compacted where it looks like I've rolled up on some of these scenes where you think, oh, it's a fatal or whatever, and then you see a couple people stand out and you think it's people helping them, right? No, it's the people in the car. They were wearing their seatbelts. They have minor just scratches or whatever, and maybe a bruise from the seatbelt because they were wearing their seatbelts, but they're alive here today to talk about that because the car looks terrible, but these cars are built to withstand these rollovers and everything else and the crush factors because the car factories put a lot of money into, with airbags and the different systems to protect people. It will save your life, but you got to have that seatbelt on. And that's one thing that I want to get that out there. And if you look in Clark County, we've talked about over 3,000 DUIs that the Nevada State Police Highway Patrol has done, right? Well, these are the deaths too. You know how I said 2/3 of these DUIs are down here in Clark County. Well, look at it's almost 2/3 of our deaths are here in Clark County. And a lot of it is with population. We're close to 3 million people
Right, of
now.
course.
But the main thing is getting this education out. We want these numbers to drop. And as long as we start talking more about this, the speeding and impairment, if we can get that speeding down on these roadways and try to prevent people from actually getting in their cars after, partying or drinking or using drugs or their own. You want to use drugs, do it at home. You know what I mean? But don't get behind that wheel of the car.
Right. Stay
So
home.
that's one thing that we just want to educate people and get that out. So I wanted to put these stats up because it's astonishing. That's 412 people. But think of the thousands of people that are affected just from that. It might be tens of thousands because you got relatives, friends, everything. And people don't understand just because a person dies, which we don't want anybody to pass away in a crash or anything, but the lives that are affected. And we got to think about those people. And that's one thing I wanted to bring up too, all these crashes that we do daily too. The victims from DUI that do not get killed, that are maimed or lose a limb or something else. Like that 7-year-old, that's a shocking story. And I'm glad that you brought that up because people can feel that through the TV, how it affects you, but it affects me too, hearing that. To have a 7-year-old ask you that, would you date me? Telling the mom's sister, would you date me if I was, you know what I mean? Or it just puts a lump in my stomach. I almost want to tear up and hear that because this person is mentally, it's going to affect him the rest of his life, even though he doesn't have an arm to use. So he's not, and then he probably pictures himself not normal like the other kids, which he's a normal everyday kid. He just got in a crash.
For the rest of his life.
Absolutely. So this is the things that we have to hone in on and get this message out because there's no excuse. I'm telling you, nowadays with the cell phones and everything and all the ways to get home safely, there is no excuse for getting behind the wheel being impaired.
Absolutely.
Sandy, I see 400, 500, almost 600 people on this list. Right?
Yes.
So at 600 people, that means that technically could have affected up to 10 or 12,000 people.
Absolutely.
Right? Like by the time you're done, the seventh cousin is never gonna meet the, you know what I mean, and all these things, and so.
Well, it's immediate family, it's extended family, it's co-workers, your church family, your neighbors. I mean, it just goes on and on. Yeah. It's not just that one
It's
person.
thousands.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And so, Sandy, when we see the impairment and you see these numbers, I know it makes you like
Sick.
right. And so people, just like Trooper Hagstrom says, and I firmly believe, and I've always said this, that if people feel, and I believe they do feel, they can feel through the television. They can see someone's face and they can say, I can see that this person is really mad. Like, I used to drive fast, and then I found out that the troopers, when they pull you over, and they pull you over at 85 or 90 miles an hour, and they come up to you, it's not that they're being jerks. They're mad. They're like, why are you doing, like, what? I don't understand. Like, you know what I mean? And so we need to stop, just like you said in the beginning. Let's come back to that, right? We need to do. And the doing, right, is the fact of that we need to keep continuing to talk on our show, right? And tell people about this, right?
Absolutely, Neil. And, you know, I totally agree with Sean about how incredible it is that you're able to provide this kind of information, education, and awareness to the public. And Trooper Slater is, you know, I mean, he's incredible. He's just outstanding. Like I said, there's not a word big enough. Not here, we say hero, but it's just not big enough. They do such an amazing job, but they can't do it by themselves, okay? They need everybody to help. They need people to listen. They need people to make the right decisions. And we know we're not neo-prohibitionists here. We're not telling people they can't drink or use their drugs. Whatever they want to do, just like you pointed out, whatever you want to do, okay? We believe as long as they're of legal age, 21 years old, they can ingest, put anything they want in their body. You know, that's their right. But all those rights end when they get behind that wheel. It affects everybody. It's not just their business any longer. It's everybody's business who's on that roadway. And yeah, it has to stop.
Can I add one more thing too? So when the public, when you see this, if you see a suspected DUI driver out there, you can call star NHP on your phone. That'll go directly into our NHP dispatch, or immediately call 911. And one of the things that we always ask is try to get a plate number, the description of the car, and the last known direction. And when we say that, you know, whether it's south and we're approaching, you know, we're on the Beltway 215 and we're approaching Sahara going southbound on, you know, on the west end there, kind of give a good description, and we'll try to get troopers there as soon as possible to get these people off the road before they kill somebody. And I just wanted to add that on there too. So always call star NHP or 911 so we can get people in that
Description
direction.
of the driver would be amazing too. I know it's impossible.
Mail.
Sometimes
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
possible, but like if you can
yeah.
get any amount of description that you can get is very helpful, because the for us to find the person, as much information as we can to find them that's distinct to that vehicle is very helpful. So like if you have a description of black car, it's going to be very difficult to find the one of the 1,000 black cars that are out there. But if you're like, hey, it's a black Ford Focus with this license plate, I have a lot more luck finding a black Ford Focus with that license
And
plate.
don't try to attempt to make the stop on your own.
don't put yourself
That's
in
another
danger.
thing, because we're going to use that for another show down the road. We're going to talk about road rage and other things that happen, but I don't want to put anybody's safety in jeopardy, and leave it up to the professionals to handle that. Don't try to do it on your own. You know, trying to stop the car or brake in front of it, because we don't want to have collisions or something bad happen. But if you could stay with the car from a distance and call it in, that's great. We'll send people immediately out to that location.
Can I give you a number?
Yeah, sure.
You know, we're looking at all these numbers, these statistics, and of course we say statistics and actually they're human lives. But just keep this number in mind, 749. By midnight tonight, 749 men, women, and children will have been killed and injured in alcohol-related crashes somewhere across this country. The question is, who are they? Who are they? Because sadly, Nevada has added significantly to that 749. Now, just in the hour that we've done this show, 2 more people are dead, 30 more are already injured. Who are they? Your mom, your dad, your husband, your wife, your child, your grandparents, your siblings, your best friend? Who are they? 749 by midnight tonight, and again tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. Think we have a problem? We got a serious problem.
I'm glad you brought that up, Sandy.
I-
and people need to realize, that's a visual that people can realize. 700, almost 750. We'll just just say it's 750. One day across our nation dying from DUI impairment.
And Trooper Slater, you go out and you
Thank you,
teach
Sandy. That was good.
these classes. So I want to come back to that as well, because this is very important, okay? That sometimes a question can come up of, is this the right thing that I'm seeing, or am I doing this way? And so you make yourself available,
Oh, yeah.
so that people can call you from all agencies.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So I want to reiterate that as well, that it's not that, oh, you work for Nevada State Police, so this person calls me for another agency, and I'm like, no, I'm too busy right now. No,
Yeah,
that's what you do, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't even tell you how many boards I've written my phone number on. There's law enforcement agencies. Every single agency in the Valley has my number. I've written my phone number down in numerous amounts of academies, and I get phone calls constantly. I mean, during this whole time that we've been here, my phone keeps ringing, and I have no clue who's calling me or what's happening or what they want, but I'll be able to answer their questions once we're done with this stuff. And it's not a rush at all. It's but what it is, though, is that I've told every single class that I've taught is that I'm always available and will always answer their phone if they give me a call. And I've written my number down on board upon board upon board, given my number out to every law enforcement agency in the Valley has my phone number. And not every officer, obviously, because that'd be ridiculous. But and that's not even with just this state. Like I've helped other states, I've helped other officers and troopers and everything else, and all of those states, they know that I'm good to call. And one of the main reasons why I work graveyard hours is because I want to be available for the troopers during the time that we have the most amount of DUIs, so that I can assist them in that period of time.
And generally, what time of the day do you work?
I work 10 p.m. to 8 in the morning on paper, but I'm constant. I mean, I work 10 p.m. to 8 in the morning on paper, and then I teach classes, and my classes are usually like 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And then I do other, like if I work for or help other agencies, I help them during whatever time. I'm all over the place. My schedule never stays straight, so.
That's dedication.
They see me in the office, and I had a lieutenant yesterday, and she's like, "Do you ever sleep?" And I was like, "Yeah, I get a couple hours here and there." So
You sound like me.
yeah, but what it is though is just I want to be available to help. So you can't be a help if you're asleep, and I'll sleep when I die, and so it's the whole point though is that I want to get the impaired drivers off the road. I want to make the number 0. Like you can't make the number 0 if you aren't willing to help your people when they need it. Because there's people who the cops want to know, okay, well, am I making the right call? Like no law enforcement officer wants to arrest people just for fun. Like we take this seriously. It's a serious thing that we're doing to people. So whenever we're making the decision of, okay, is this person impaired or not impaired, I get calls constantly. Hey, I have this, and this. What do you think? And I'm like, well, did you look at this? Did you look at that? What does this tell you? What does that tell you? And sometimes they're hard, fast answers, and they're very easy. Other times I have to really think about okay, well, what about this or this? And you have to ask follow-up questions. Those follow-up questions lead to a more detailed investigation. But when people say, this is one thing that bothers me, when people say, oh, well, you just arrested me because of this. And it's like, well, no, it's never just because of one thing or another. We did a detailed investigation and came to a conclusion, which is this. And nothing's going to change the outcome after we've made the decision. So people want to say, oh, well, can't I just get an Uber now? And it's like, well, no, you've lost the chance to call an Uber when you decided to get behind the wheel of your car.
Yeah, and Trooper Hexter, I mean, we need Trooper Slater.
I was just going to
Yeah.
bring that
You
up.
know what I'm saying?
Because
Like-
these are the
like-
troopers that we're looking for
Right, like-
that really want to go out there
like-
and make a difference. And then look at, he's going above and beyond. Always, we had Douglas McCarty too. So anytime you wanted to call him or whatever, they're always made themselves available. And
Yeah.
not only is he doing this for our agency, but he's doing it for the agencies around the valley.
Right.
And what's that show for our department? I mean, we're there to make sure that we get these impaired drivers off the road and make sure that the people doing it are educated properly, following the law, and making sure that we don't have to lose a case or something, and when it comes to court, because that's the ultimate decision towards the end. That's a whole nother thing that we could get into, trust me, because I'm not always happy with the way that goes either.
I will say, I
But
help the
that's not always
prosecutor's
our
office,
decision.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
So-
prosecutors call me too. They
so-
they ask me about like tougher cases if I can help them with proven impairment versus not proven impairment. Like I help out the prosecutor's office with all the prosecutors around the valley just to help them maybe showcase the case in a way that makes a little bit more sense to the general public, because when you're talking to the public, you have to articulate it in a way that makes sense. So we can't just say, like, if I tell a cop, like, hey, this person's impaired because of X, Y, Z, I don't need any further explanation. But somebody who has no law enforcement background, I have to explain why somebody's impaired versus just saying, well, they're impaired, believe me.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
Absolutely.
because the thing is, we want to stop these people and we want to make sure that they get prosecuted.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. And it's a good case. That's the whole thing, too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
got to make
So-
sure that the case sticks, that these people are prosecuted.
Yep.
Oh.
That's it.
Yeah.
Sandy, you know what that means?
Look at that.
Well, that means it's over, Sandy.
It's beautiful though.
I
But
know.
I love these photographs.
We met who was
Sergeant Keene was in that class. so
right.
that- yeah.
Sergeant Keene was in
So-
here, and he was this was his class.
Can I say one thing
Yeah, of
before we
course.
go to the
I wanna
public?
hear.
We talked a little bit about Carrie Fagel today.
Yes.
And you know what? And before I tried again, her personal phone's been disconnected. So I was going to try to get a photo that we could put up, and maybe we can do it some other time for another show if we can get.
Oh,
and I'm so glad.
that phone number.
Yeah, I'm so glad that the husband was able to come in and meet you and everything.
Yeah.
And we were looking forward to her coming out, because I spoke to her, and it was a shock for me and Sandy to hear of her passing. She actually passed at her residence, I believe. So what I wanted to say is our heartfelt condolences go out to the family, their friends, and everybody. And we'd like to dedicate this impaired driving show to Carrie Fagel, who had unfortunately lost a brother and sister to a selfish DUI impaired driver. So our thoughts and prayers are with her, and we just wanted to dedicate this show to Carrie Fagel.
Absolutely.
definitely.
Absolutely. And I hope that if Mr. Fagel wants to contact me, I hope he will.
How do they do
I-
that, Sandy?
He can call me at 702-376-1238. Call or text on that number. I spoke with him briefly. But I would like to talk to him again. I mean, I want to at least offer him the opportunity, if he would like to have a sign made for Carrie's brother and sister. We can put that on our schedule for next year, and maybe even be interested in the handcuffs. There's certain things that we can do. We'd be able to assist him and help him in any way possible. So I hope he'll reach out.
Trooper Slater, it was devastating. You know what I'm saying? And to hear another person passing away.
Yeah.
But it shows what you're doing, that you need to stay on your mission.
Yeah.
And as difficult as it must be sometimes, and you know what I mean, I don't know if you ever go like, oh, man, I just, but like you need to stay on your mission. You know what I mean? Like, and so
Just want people to not drive impaired. That's
Yeah.
it.
That's the
If
whole
I-
message today. You
if
know what
I
I mean?
could-
And every day,
Yeah.
actually.
If
you know
I
what
could
mean?
get,
So-
and people say, "Oh, why do you care about this? It's not going to change." And my whole thing is yeah, it's not going to change if nobody does anything about it. But if we're all here, we all care about the impaired driving and eliminating it off the roadways, and the only way that we can eliminate it is through training, through telling the public about it, through Sandy's program, which is amazing, through your program, which is amazing. It doesn't happen without public buy-in. So if we can't get the buy-in from the public, then yeah, it will never change. But if we can have stuff like this, if we can teach the public to not drive impaired, to use the services that are provided, we've said it numerous times today. We aren't saying don't have fun. We're saying make good decisions while you have fun. Like go and drink and do whatever you're going to do, but make a good decision and call a Uber, Lyft, or a service to pick you up. Call somebody that is sober to drive you to wherever it is you need to go to. I said it the last time that I was here. Make the decision of your driving before you start drinking. So call an Uber to your destination, so then you have to take a ride service back to your house. Because if you don't have your car there in the first place, then you're not going to make the bad decision of getting into your car.
And Neil, he's right. You know
and-
what? It takes all of us. You know what I mean? And he talked about your show, the education, the troopers, her educating and being there for the victims, that the victim impact, and for the troopers going their job. But we also need society to make those changes. And that's where it full circles. It takes all of us. So
and
I hope these changes will be made through time, but we
Uh-huh.
just have to keep hitting that home.
And I was just going to say $50 or $75 or $100 for an Uber or a Lyft or whatever the heck it might be. Even if
It's under that.
If you can't afford $100, you certainly can't afford $10,000. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Exactly.
Sandy, before we leave, there might be people that want to help you or donate or whatever it might be. So what is the organization, and how does somebody help if they want to help?
Okay, first of all, we are a nonprofit, 501c3. Any donations that come into our organization are kept right here. They're not sent off to some national office anywhere. Those funds are used to help our victims. Victims need all kinds of help with finances and helping them through the adjudication process. All of those kinds of things we provide our victims at no cost to them. I mean, they've already they've already paid the ultimate cost. They can contact us, again, by calling 702-376-1238. Our website is stopdui.org. They can reach us that way as well. And we look forward to having more people join us and help us. And I would ask your viewers to please pay attention to what's going on at the legislature. If they would please call their assemblymen and their senators and let them know that they want them to support tough DUI laws, specifically the amendment to the vehicular homicide law. So, and of course, everybody, please buckle up. It's your only defense against a drunk driver, truly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where does somebody go if they want to hang out with you, Trooper Slater? You know what I mean? If they want to get a little
Absolutely.
bit of education from someone, you know what I mean? Like that,
Sure.
and they're like, okay, well, this happened to me, and I had a tragedy in my life, like a certain, I'm sure there's others, but a certain sergeant that works for Nevada State Police, who's a really great guy, and his father was passed away from the DUI. You know what I mean? And
Sure.
so, whatever the reason might be, but if you're great and you want to be made greater, where do you go?
Yeah, you can go to nevadastatepolice.com and look us up, but you can also go to NHP Public Affairs on an email, shoot us an email, and I can get back to you. It's going to go. We have that NHP Public Affairs goes throughout the entire state for all our PIOs up north, central here, but wherever you're calling from or emailing from, it will go to my desk. So NHP Public Affairs, and you can get that through NevadaStatePolice.com.
Sandy, you've seen his desk?
Yes, I have.
Yeah. You know the what's the lady that is across from him? She was on here from the.
Oh, Michelle. Well, she's a little bit. Keen's from right across from me.
She drops the candies off at his desk.
Yeah, sometimes she put little Reese's, but I don't think my wife would like to hear that. But
Yeah.
that's okay. I'm trying to lose a little bit of weight there, you know.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Thank you very much for coming in. We greatly appreciate it. All right, let's look right here and
Thank
we'll wave goodbye. Okay. See you later.
Right.
Bye.
But